right. I am so excited for today to lean in with Stephen Jaggers, co-founder of Somatic Breathwork. And today is just going to be really, really fun for us to dive into a beautiful example of someone who is living out their dreams, their purpose, just living in alignment with their soul. And that path is not linear, which I'm super excited to dive into because I think so many people are like, oh, well, that person has it easy, or, oh, it's just, that's defined for that person. So this is just my life. I guess I'll just unpack my bags and something I don't like. We're really going to dig into how Stephen got to the place that he's at today, because again, that path isn't linear. So I'm so excited, Jaggers, to dig in with you today to really just unpack the journey that it took to get you to the place you're at now. I mean, you're taking this call from Portugal, which is amazing. It's such a testament to you living in alignment with your soul, because I know so many people who would be like, I'm not taking a work call on vacation. Like when I was in corporate, if someone was like, hey, can you jump on this call? I'd be like, absolutely not. And I'm going to pretend like I didn't see this email, but you were like, let's do it. I've got my microphone, like such a testament to you living in alignment. So I'm so excited you're here just to sprinkle some wisdom into the space and to just bring some calming energy into this journey of just becoming more of yourself. So welcome.
Thank you, Christina. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation, and it's definitely an honor to be here.
I'm so excited. So let's dial it back. So let's dive into, was there ever a time where you felt like you were not living in alignment as much as you are now? And did you have a moment, like an aha moment or spiritual awakening of sorts, that kind of had you realize like, oh, like this isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, you've taken my training, so you know that I love to define words. And so I think alignment is something that we need to kind of define a little bit. I mean, obviously we can judge that, okay, I'm living from a place that I want to be living in, or that's my highest purpose or my highest calling. But alignment, when I think about alignment, I think about posture. And when I think about posturing the body, there is no correct posture. There's no correct posture.
Yeah.
Posture is actually it's a dynamic thing because we are moving all of the time. It's never a static thing. We're never just going to be like, oh, I'm in perfect posture all the time, because I'm moving through life and I'm dealing with different stressors. And so our posture is, how do we move through life in a dynamic way that's in in support of our body, right? So it's like living in alignment, I think, is how can I move through the world in a way that's the most supportive of my current journey. So there's definitely been times where throughout the journey, I'm like, oh, I'm moving in a direction that I don't want to be headed into. And so it's this constant like fluctuation of, can I listen to my internal compass to bring myself back into alignment? I think that even though I'm living in alignment right now, there's days and times where I'm like, I'm going down probably a route that I don't want to. So how do I bring myself back?
Yes.
Because we're going to get thrown off with different stressors. And right now, at the current level I'm at right now, I'm dealing with so many other things that I never thought I would be dealing with, versus years ago when I was just kind of starting. I was dealing with a complete different set of things. So, for example, I, outside of high school, I wanted to study addiction psychology. Both of my parents were significant addicts with very hard drugs. And I really wanted to understand what made people become addicted to certain things. I watched them struggle with prescription medications as well, and anxiety and depression. And at the same time, I was so fascinated by the body as well. I knew that the mind was connected to the body, and that, every time I moved my body, I played so many different sports. I was always active. I was always in my body. And, I ended up dropping out of college because as soon as we started studying the DSM-4 at the time, where we were labeling people with different diagnoses, and just based on this diagnosis, we give them a pill and, that'll mask the symptoms. I knew inside that this wasn't the route I wanted to go down. And, I ended up, just was like, all right, well, I'll try to find a good job. So I ended up working in a corporate job for about 2 years. A lot of people don't really know this, but I was a human resources executive for a microchip company, wearing a suit and tie, for 2 years. And, I watched those same patterns of anxiety and depression through a lot of the engineers that were working there, a lot of the coworkers, a lot in myself as well, because I knew I was working a job that was like just to get me by for the time being. It was not in alignment with my soul or what I wanted to do. And, as soon as I had that realization that, whoa, I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing, I ended up getting laid off. I ended up getting let go. They were like, we don't need you anymore. And then I was kind of just like, all right, what do I want to do? And during that time, I, I had a jujitsu instructor. I was doing martial arts at the time, and he was kind of teaching me about energy and, very vaguely within the body. And I remember doing like some qigong basic exercises with him. And at that time, I started doing those exercises, and I started having lucid dreams. I didn't even know what this phenomenon was. But I started going down a rabbit hole of lucid dreaming and altered states of consciousness and astral projection and all of these sort of woo esoteric things. But it led me down a rabbit hole of understanding how deeply connected our spiritual body is to our emotional body, to our physical body, and how our emotions affect that, how our diet affects that. And, I ended up finding a bodywork school that taught a lot of different forms of somatic bodywork, energetic bodywork, from polarity therapy to cranial sacral therapy to somatic release bodywork. And it just taught so many different things. I ended up falling in love with it. As soon as I got my hands on someone's body, all of the things that I had been studying through college and throughout the rest of my life, it started to make sense. It started to make sensation for me. I started to be able to understand through literally plugging into somebody, and I fell in love with it. And I ended up becoming an instructor there. I fell in love with teaching. And yeah, that was kind of the beginning start of a path that felt much more in alignment with my soul.
Wow. Okay. You've come to the right place to go deep into this quote unquote woo woo stuff. I love it. Like, this is exactly what our listeners love to hear. So the fact that you were just sharing that path that was not linear in like the most beautiful way, where you were like, I was questioning things. I released things that weren't in alignment. I think that's part of finding yourself, is actually the release. I think people are like, I have to have the answer to release the other thing. And it's like, sometimes the answer comes in when we release something that's in the way. It's not the same for everyone, but sometimes that's the case. And so I love that you started to just follow what felt expansive, what felt like, ooh, this is different. This feels good. This feels like the fact that when you got your hands on the body, it all started to make sense. And it started to create those sensations within you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I remember at that time, I had family members, I had friends that I went to college with, I went to school with. A lot of them were asking me like, oh, you're going to be a massage therapist, or you're going to touch people for a living. Like, a lot of them were very judgmental.
Yeah.
And I would be lying if I said it wasn't like affecting me internally. But I'm so thankful that I continued to kind of listen to that voice, that internal sensation of, wow, what I'm doing is actually making a difference in people's lives. And it feels more significant than anything else that I've been doing. And as far as the scarcity always trickles in, and the self-doubt and the judgment from other people. But if you continue to do what lights you up, like, the money will come, the success will come. And there's been multiple times where I've been in that place of like, I guess I could probably just get a secure, stable job, or I could probably just do what my parents want me to do, or I could probably just do what my friends think I should be doing. And I'm very thankful I just continued to 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 have that inner knowing that eventually what I'm doing, the world will find it valuable.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You're speaking into such an important part of that journey of when you find yourself, sometimes people are like, well, wait, that's different from the version of you that I know. When you continue to unlock different pieces of self, people are like, well, that's not the self I know, or that's not the version of you that I know. And so I think that's a really big and important part of that journey is those limiting beliefs that came up and that you were able to break through that and see the bigger picture. Was there anything specifically that you did to break through those limiting beliefs or those judgments from other people that felt like it really grounded you into your purpose? Because I think that's sometimes a scary part is when people are like, your parents are like, no, you need to be a doctor, or no, you need to be this or that. Or I know when I was younger, I wanted to be a singer, and they were like, no one makes it as a singer. Like, there's no way. You have to be a trust fund baby. You have to have all this, you have to be connected. And so I remember being like, oh, that limiting belief, I can't make money doing what I love. And that was one of the things that I had to break through, was being like, I can make money doing what I love. I'm actually, but it took me a while to get there, to understand, like, wait a minute, there's so many examples of people who make money doing what they love. And so it was my own healing journey that took me there. So I'm curious, was there anything that helped you break through those limiting beliefs or continue to? Because I think one of my mentors says, like, new level, new devil, right? It's like, oh, new things come through when you kind of start to move up or shift into different versions of yourself. Different things come through to heal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the adaptive pattern that I learned to kind of help support me in that place was like creating really, really strong boundaries.
Yeah.
Like was, I I left home, I left all my friends. I moved to Hawaii for a year. I moved to Oregon, then I moved to Sedona, like leaving my physical location and leaving my current friend group and setting a hard boundary with people. There was a time in my life where I had to completely cut out my family, which was unfortunate. And I think like we swing the pendulum. Like, first off, I think I had the realization I'm a very sensitive human. I'm highly impressionable, that people's impressions of me, they get pressed upon me and they make an impact. And so having that understanding that I am highly impressionable, I take people's judgment. I take what people are saying to heart. And so if I can either listen to them or I can listen to myself. And for that time, I needed to swing the pendulum to the other side of being someone who's empathic, being someone who's highly sensitive is like becoming like having strong boundaries. And so I had to like put up heavy walls to friends, family, people's thoughts, like in the etheric space, like just people, the way that people were thinking about me, I could feel that.
Yeah.
And so I had to put all those boundaries up, and that supported me for a couple of years to allow me to go deep into what I thought was meaningful, what I thought was going to be in alignment with my purpose. And then there got to a point where that pattern was not helping me anymore. Then I'm like, okay, now I need to kind of take those boundaries down a little bit. Like, how can I bring this back to my family, to my friends? But I needed to give myself enough time in that place where I had these walls up.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I feel so seen in the process of you sharing this, because I had a very similar experience myself where it was like, no one understood what I was doing. And it actually offended a lot of people that I was going outside of the norm. Like, they were really frustrated by it. They were angry about it. I mean, I got like these really long projection text messages and being like, that's not working for me. I need to take a step back. And so that part was difficult for sure. But it was so important for me to take time, like you did as well, to get to know myself, to almost like, I think of baby deer legs. It's like, let me learn how to walk. And once I can walk and I can run, then we can run together. And then I'm less like susceptible to your thoughts. Because if you're
Yeah.
listening, the people that are listening to this podcast 100% are empathic. Like they are sensitive beings. They also very much so can connect to other people's thoughts. Like they know what other people are thinking and feeling. And so I think there's something that's so important that you're bringing up, which is those boundaries, not only potentially physically, but also the emotional boundaries, those thought boundaries. Like I every day will put myself in this white divine light and just say, whatever is for my highest good and of the highest vibration can come in. Nothing else can come in. So I have different ways of protecting my energy too. Even though I do feel like, okay, I'm like, Bambi, let's go. Like my legs are moving faster now, but there's different energetic practices that I still do that are helpful for those thoughts from other people. And then it just becomes like, oh, that's you and that's not me. It becomes more obvious, but it's like we have to find ourselves first before it's obvious what is us and what's not us. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of call it like when people are PMing you, which is like
Yeah.
psychic message versus
Yeah.
DM.
That's hilarious.
I can feel
Yeah.
when people are thinking about me,
Yes.
especially if they're thinking about me in a certain way,
Yes.
especially people that you're highly attuned to, lovers,
Yes.
relationships, family,
Yep.
friends. And yeah, I think that there's this we live in a world where we are like highly pressed upon from societal pressures, from parental pressures, and then self pressures. And
Mm.
it's like, I think everybody needs to take space, time and space, maybe even a physical space from people where they can really tune into who am I? Because we need to be able to develop this sense of self before we can actually connect to other people. Because if I don't know who I am, then it's actually not me when I'm connecting with other people. It's
Yeah.
a disconnected version of me. And then that weighs heavy on us because then every time we are connecting with people and the more relationships we have, the more disconnected versions of myself that I actually have to hold up in those relationships. And that becomes super heavy and taxing on my persona, my identity. And so
Mm.
the more like we all crave to be able to be the same person, like when I'm on this podcast versus the same person when I'm teaching versus the same person when I'm with my family versus the same person when I'm in my relationship. Like we crave to be able to be congruent and integrated. The more integrated we can become, it just means that all of the parts of myself are intact and I can be that in all the different environments that I'm in.
That's so true. It is exhausting to hold up that different persona in different places. I
Yeah.
was that. Like I found myself very disjointed. It was like corporate Christina and coach Christina and friend Christina and college sorority girl Christina and then shaman. And it's like, whoa, like these are very different personas I'm putting on right now. And then at some point it was like, okay, when I took that time to myself, I started to like really deeply connect with, I want to show up as me in all places. I really want to show up as me. Like it's so true. My soul desired first to be witnessed by myself. Like I had to witness who I was because I was confused. Like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like I had this like moment of like, but really though, like who everything was defined for me. I graduated college. I got my corporate job. I went through, I got to the top of the corporate ladder and I'm like, this still doesn't feel like me. I kept thinking if the money comes, if the position comes, I'll feel like more of me and then I got up there and I'm like, this actually feels worse. Like this sucks. Like I'm less of myself. I have less time to myself. Expectations are higher. I feel exhausted because I'm different in every place that I play. And so exactly like really just coming home to self and letting that be who shows up in every relationship. It's almost like an exhale. Like, I can stop pretending now. And I didn't even know I was pretending for a very long time, to be honest. I was just like, oh, this is me. Even though I'm different in every place, I'm a chameleon.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I had someone ask me the other day, what would be like the biggest thing that I would tell my 20-year-old self?
Mhm.
And there was like three major things within that. One was, don't ever listen to anybody that doesn't have what you want. That's a major thing. Like, a lot of us listen to our parents, and God bless them, but most of the time they don't have the life that we're looking for. I mean, if they do, incredible. Like, you're so blessed.
Mhm.
And don't listen to their judgments either. Like, I had to put up those boundaries. Number two, test as many things as you can. Get out of your hometown, test careers, test jobs, test relationships. Like, go out and explore, spend time learning. A lot of people, they go straight into try to making money, and they rob themselves of actually figuring out, what is it that I want to learn? What is important to me? And then, the third part of that is like, be aware while you're testing. Like, try to find something that you could see yourself mastering, and not for other people. What's one skill that you could see yourself mastering that would truly bring like joy to yourself, that would bring value to other people, that like is an art form that you would love to master? And that was something that I think that once I found body work, which was like deeply connecting and with other people and helping them feel better in their body, helping them, deeply connect to themselves and find their own alignment on multiple different levels. Um, I was so thankful that I found that, and I was not worried about whoever's judgment with that.
That's so important. Speaking of reading minds or connecting with people's thoughts, that was going to be one of my questions, was like, for someone who's not clear. So I think a lot of people aren't clear because everything's been so defined. What can they do to find that clarity? And I think you just answered that. It's like, test things out. It's almost like the body can tell us what is in alignment more than our mind can. At least that's what I've noticed, is like, when my body feels expansive and I feel joyful, that's that exhilarated feeling, that tells me it's in alignment more than my mind does. Because my mind will actually tell me, no one else is doing this. Are you sure you want to do that? I don't know. And
Yeah.
then my body's like, this feels so good. Who cares if anyone else likes to do this? Like, this is amazing. And so just really starting to follow, test, learn, what can I master? What can I master with joy? I think that's a big one too.
Yeah. And being in exploration, like, when you are not clear, usually like people are so uncomfortable with not being clear, and it's
I know.
okay to be unclear.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times when we're unclear, we put so much pressure on ourselves that I need to be clear right now. I need to know, I need to have everything figured out. I need to know exactly what I want to do with my life. The first step when you're unclear is allow yourself to be unclear. Like, be
Mm,
okay with being unclear, because the stage that you're in, and this doesn't stop as long as you're alive, is that you will go through transitional phases. You will go through phases of your life where, shit, I'm so clear, I know exactly what I want to focus on, I know exactly what I should be paying attention to. And then it's going to shift, and then you're going to be in a transitional phase. And when you're in a transitional phase, it's so important to put up like boundaries for yourself, to allow yourself to go explore. Like, right now, I'm unclear. So right now, I'm just going to go explore a bunch of different things. And while you are exploring different things, pay attention to your body, because while you're moving through these different explorations of, maybe it's, going into music, or maybe it's going into speaking, or maybe it's going into writing or dance, or whatever the thing is, like, listen to your body, because your body will tell you, this feels good, this feels right for me. And then when you have that felt sensation, then it's like, okay, let's go deeper into that. And
yes.
so allowing yourself to be in that transitional phase is so important, because it doesn't stop.
Yeah. Okay. That is probably bringing so much comfort to everyone who's hearing this right in this second, because that lack of clarity, it feels like, because so much of our younger years were defined. They were clear. Usually, you're going to go to school, you're going to do this. At least that's how my childhood was. And a lot of the people that I know, it was like, this is the clear path forward. Here's your corporate ladder that you're climbing. Here's your next step. It's very clear in certain instances. And so I think we do get really uncomfortable with those unclear moments, or we feel like we're doing something wrong. But really, it's like, that's when we have so much room to play. Like, if we could just let that flow happen, that's when those miracle moments happen. I'm telling you, like, stuff changes in an instant and you're like, whoa, like, what just happened? Like, and it's because you're open to exploring, because you're like, that feels good. Let me go to this event, even though no one that I know is going to that event. And then you meet someone and then they inspire you. And then you're like, I want to take that deeper. And so it's like, just playing allows you to try things on, to see the world from other people's viewpoints and be like, that's interesting. Does that feel like my truth? And start to test and learn even from that perspective, like trying on other people's perspectives and being like, is that mine? No, that feels bad. Or, wow, that actually is mine. That just broadened my perspective. I didn't even know that that was my truth until this moment in time. So, oh, I love that. And it's kind of like, that's why I have always loved working with mentors too. When I'm in that void, when they remind me that's okay. It's okay to be in the void. Let's play, let's explore. That is so calming for my nervous system. Having some sort of a mentor that's doing something at a level that I'm like, oh man, I just want to learn from this person. That really helps me too. Because that's actually how I start to get some of the clarity that I'm seeking, but also being comfortable with being unclear. Like, the path will reveal itself. Channeling really helps with that too. When I'm like, I'm just like, God, tell me what I need to know right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always ask myself the question, it's like, how can I open myself up um, for a greater purpose, for a
Yes.
greater mission? Like, how can I become a vessel for spirit, life force to move through me? If you would have asked me 5-10 years ago that I'd be, teaching breath work or any of the stuff that I'm doing, I would have never known whatsoever. I would have not known whatsoever. But it is exactly, how I want to feel when I'm living my life, and it's so in alignment for me. And one of the things you said about mentors, when you're in a transitional phase and you're, what I said about boundaries is protect that space for you to be in the transitional phase, like from your own mind telling you, I got to get the shit figured out, from everyone else's judgment, like protect that space for you to be able to play. And while you're testing different things, also, pay attention to the people that are living a life that you want to, or, pay attention to, like, mentors will come into your life. And just like, I can think of a couple mentors for me, not even mentors, but just people that were living a lifestyle that I wanted to, that were helping people, that were, had massive, expansive thoughts on what's possible for their life. Just me going and spending time with them and co-regulating with them, like I could see what was possible. I could feel what was possible. And it completely shattered my paradigm of what my mind at the time could ever think what was possible.
Oh my gosh. Yes, to co-regulation. Can you speak to that a little bit more too? Because when you recently were like, you kind of turned that saying, like, we're like the 5 people we hang out with most, you were like, we're actually like like our nervous system is acclimating to the 5 people we are around most. That kind of blew my mind, because I was like, you're right. Like, it's a nervous system experience. And to be around people that are like, I have huge dreams, like nothing is not possible. To be around that energy is so expansive. And yeah, can you just like elaborate on that a little bit for someone who might be like, what does that mean to co-regulate? Just share a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, people that are in that place of expansive thought, expansive being, that you can feel when you're around them. It's not just happening in their mind, it's the way that they're carrying themselves through the world. And we are co-regulating with each other, meaning my nervous system is communicating with your nervous system. That's the main that's the main function of our nervous system, is communication. You have an electrical bubble outside of you, and I'll get esoteric here since you gave me permission. You have an auric field around you. That is your energy bubble. And that is an extension of your nervous system, the electricity of your body. Your nervous system is your electrical system. It is your chakra system. It's the same thing. And that extends from you. It is the electrical bubble around you. And when you are in someone else's presence, your electrical bubble, your energetic bubble, is combined with their bubble. And it's creating certain chemistry, which it starts at an electrical an energetic level first, and then the chemistry is what is being secreted on a glandular level in my physiology from that connection. That's when you're in a relationship with somebody, and you're co-regulating with them, and the energy feels really good. Well, then you call that chemistry, whether it's a friendship, a relationship, whatever it is. But it's the way in which my nervous system attunes to yours. And what happens is we're either co-regulating with somebody, or we're co-dysregulating. Most of us have learned through our life to connect with people around dysregulation. Most people connect to other people on their stressors, their traumas, how other people hurt them, what's going on in the news, what's the bad thing in the news nowadays, right? Most people connect around negativity. And so it's bringing in this co-dysregulation where we feel like because we want to be on the same page with the people that we're around. But it's so important to take inventory with the people that you're around. Are you co-regulating, or are you co-dysregulating? And so what happens is you become, they say, you're the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Well, because your electrical bubble is in the presence of their electrical bubble, and it's not just the thoughts that you're thinking, but the thoughts are based off of the state of your antenna, which is your nervous system, your electrical system. And the state of your antenna is going to be what you're tuning into on a mental level. And so if you're around someone that has an expansive antenna, that they're able to tune into such deep, expansive, limitless thinking, well, it's because the way that they're carrying themselves on an energetic level is expansive. And so if you can, and you'll know exactly when you're around these people. And I remember, with, one of my dear friends, Drew Canoli, who he was a brother to me. He started Organifi. Organifi does, like $100 million a year or something. Like, he was a great friend of mine in Sedona when I was living there. And really, I just focused on creating a relationship with him. Like, how can I add value to his life? And I would watch him as he would as we would go through town, the way that he would interact with people. It was almost like that Christ-like energy where he would give everyone his presence. He would, be so giving to almost everyone he's around. Like, there was no scarcity in his energetic bubble whatsoever. And just to hear his story and his background, like, he didn't come from money. He came from, he was adopted, that whole thing. And just spending time with him in that state, like it, by proxy, he sprinkled a lot of that onto me. And, with other mentors that I had, and with other friends that I had that had similar expansive energy, it wasn't like, I'll back up. I had multiple of them ask me, like, dude, how can I help you? And this is when I had nothing really, I was just a body worker. I just was mastering my art form. I didn't really have any money. I had a couple clients here and there. They were like, dude, how can I help you succeed? I want to see you successful. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, no, I don't know. But I know that at some point I will have something, and just being in relation with you, just spending time and cultivating this friendship, this relationship is helping me so deeply.
Yes. So, wow. Oh my God, there was so much there. So feel free to rewind that part and listen to that again, because there was just so much magic in that. So thank you so much for just sharing and expanding on that. And what I think is really interesting, that kind of part of what you were tapping into, was somatic breath work. So this beautiful thing that started as a spark that now has become this movement. How would you say that it became the thing that it became? Was it because you were hanging around people that had this expansive energy that allowed you to really connect with, like, this could be a thing, like this could really become something? What was it that had it go from like this spark of excitement, this expansive energy, to like what it is today? Because I'm not kidding. You'll see hundreds of testimonials on the website, and there are thousands upon thousands that aren't even on the website. Like, I know when I sit in on a breathwork session, there's 50 in that session. I mean, you're watching the chat and people are like, I just released trauma from 40 years ago, and it's like, whoa, like just one session in and of itself. And so what would you say really attributed to it coming from a spark to now what it is today?
Yeah. It's such a good question. And I don't know if I've actually like thought about it from this place. I think the first step, like we talked in the beginning of this podcast, was really like clearing out all of the noise of parental societal stuff and listening to like, what's the thing that matters to me most? And that was like mastering the skill of helping people reconnect their mind back to their body through body work at the time. And I spent a ton of time in body work, lots of different modalities within that. Then I got asked to teach, and that clicked a light bulb on for me at that time. I was like, oh my God, I love teaching. And then at that time I was like, okay, I'm teaching, I'm doing body work, I'm taking on clients. At that time it was like, okay, how do I felt like I was in a transitional phase again. I was like, okay, how do I create some space for me to like go test other things? Well, I was testing, functional movement, and I was testing breath work, and I was testing, the psychedelic space. And I was testing so many other different things. And like, when I go into something, I want to go into it. And I want to, like, when I get that felt sensation, I'm like, I want to master this. And so at that point, I started going into other modalities. And then, at some point, someone asked me, I had a woman who was a client of mine ask me, when are you going to teach what you do? Like, I want to learn. And that light bulb clicked on for me. And that was the moment where, a lot of people call this the Da Vinci effect, kind of clicked for me. And that Da Vinci effect is, how do I integrate all of the things that I've spent time mastering, I've spent time experiencing, and I've spent time doing? And so I started to like, okay, well, I know how to make a lesson plan because I was a teacher. I know lots of different forms of body work. I had been studying breath work. I had been studying hypnotherapy. And so I started just combining it all together. And really, like, it took me like, this actually took me 10 years to do all of this. Like, it's just blown up in the past 2 years, but there was a lot of time before that when I was very broke. I was living out of my car. I was couch surfing while mastering my craft, while putting off earning money to like learn and hone my skills. So just to preface that. But then at that time I was, I just went into this cave where I, put up strong boundaries again. And I was like, I'm going to go inside and I'm going to create this lesson plan. And how do I distill all of this stuff to its most simplest form? Like, it's a process of alchemy. Like, I think that the simpler you can make things, the more you actually understand it. And so, this woman specifically asked me, when are you going to teach what you do? I was like, okay, I'm going to take all these principles, all of these different things. I'm going to combine it together. I'm going to distill it to its purest form. And then I'm just going to like text a couple people and see if they want to come over to my house and like learn what I do. And so I had a little training out of my house with like 5 people who I was like texting all of my friends, like, hey, you want to come learn this? Like, pay what you can at the time. And then I did like 3 of those. And then at the time, I was like, okay, this is really gaining some momentum. I ended up calling Fish into my life as a client. He had created some online businesses, and he had much more, 10, 15 years plus experience on creating businesses. And, I worked with him, and when he first came to me, he, told me that he didn't want to live anymore. He was going through some very, very hard, traumatic situations. And I was like, dude, let me just work with you. I ended up working with him, and, he ended up getting better and fully believed in it, fully had his heart in it. There was so much alignment there that I was like, all right, dude, let's do this thing. Let's see where it goes. Like there's nothing else I'd rather do with my time before it's my time, And so, we started holding bigger trainings, and then it turned into an online thing. And, I'll rewind a little bit, because before I started those trainings, while I was mastering my craft, like I was giving it away to a lot of my mentors or people that had something of what I wanted, a lifestyle or a felt sensation of what I wanted. Like I would go to them and I'd be like, this is what I do. And like, this is my art form, and this is what I love to give people. Like, it would mean so much if I could just give this to you, and, let me know what you think about it. And so and for a body worker, or a breath worker, like that's a very intimate way to connect with somebody. Like, it was my business card, and it wasn't like I was asking a ton from them. I was like, I want to just give this to you for feedback and just to add value to your life. And then at that point, I never asked them for anything until later, years down the line, until Somatic started, kind of blowing up. At that point, then I was like, hey guys, like I actually have something now. Like, is there any way that you could help support this? Like, it would mean so much. And at that time, then I had, a couple people, promote me to their bigger audiences, and that really helped the momentum of things.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you for reverse engineering that. And in the simplest way, right? I'm sure there was so much more that went into it all, of course, over 10 years. But thank you so much for sharing that, because I think sometimes we compare ourselves to like the farthest step. Like we get the spark and we're like, but I don't have 40,000 followers, so there's no way this will happen. Or I don't have the connections yet, or whatever it might be. And it's like everything, if this is your craft, if this is your baby, you're not going to abandon it. You're going to want to give this to people. You're going to want to be like, can you try this? I would love to share it with you. I would love to give this into the space. Like, you want to do that. You want to serve. Like, it really does start from that space of like, with this spark, you're starting to really kind of poke the fire. You're starting to let it grow versus being like, why is this not ablaze yet? Like, why is this not, massive yet? And it's like, everything is a stepping stone. Everything really got you to where you are now. And I'm so grateful that you weren't, or maybe you were, but that you didn't give up in comparing to like, oh, I wish it was here, versus being like, let me learn every step of the way. Because I know on my own journey, there's micro little moments where we call them failures that you learn from, that you're like, well, thank God I didn't have 100,000 people looking at me when I learned that, So were there any moments where you were like, oops, that was a failure, but I learned from that along that journey too?
Yeah. I'm sure there's so many to come, and there's been so many, but I think that, listen, I think it was a quote from Elon Musk or something lately that was like, if AI gets to the point where it decides whether or not to keep humans around, the only reason it'll keep humans around is because they can make art. And so, like, AI can make art too, but it'll never make human art, like with all of its imperfections and errors and all of these different things. And so, like, when you are in the process of making art, like another quote from Alan Watts is like, when you're playing music, the purpose is not to get to the end of the song. Or when you are dancing with your partner, it's not to get to some space on the dance floor. It's to be in it fully when you're in it. And so if you hold yourself back from whatever art that you're creating right now, Like whatever wants to be expressed through you, it needs to be expressed, because if you stop that one, you'll never get to the next one. And so if you stop this expression right now, maybe the 10th, 20th one is the one that actually like the world's like, yes, we want more of that. But you'll never get to that one that the world is actually wanting unless you like do all of the other ones. And the purpose of art is not to like it's not to have it blow up in the world, right? It's for you.
Yeah.
And so when you're creating something, do it for you. And just keep continuing that process. And then eventually like one of them will blow up, or, you know, if it's in alignment with like yourself and what the world is wanting, because there's that process of when you're like, a lot of people, they fall on either one side or the other side. They're creating something just because the world wants it and it's not in alignment with them. They're creating something basically just to make money. Or you're on the other side, you're creating something just for yourself and the world doesn't really want it. The world doesn't really care about it. And so if you find that like sweet spot in the Venn diagram with creating something that's in alignment with you and your soul and your artistic expression, whatever it is, and meeting that with like creating something for the world, like the world is actually wanting it, that's that sweet spot.
Yes. Yes. So for someone who wants to go after their dreams, let's say they have that spark and they're scared, you kind of started to answer that question. Just take a step, just do the first move, just let it be for you. Let it be fun. Take some of that pressure off. But is there anything else you would add to that for someone who's like, I have this within me, I want to birth it, but I'm scared? Is there anything else you would add to be like, just do it?
There's never like, time is never wasted when you're exploring your own expression, when you're exploring your own art. Like when I'm in my office and like I don't know what I want to work on, and I'll just pick up the guitar. Time is never wasted playing the guitar. Time is never wasted on doing some sort of creative expression. And so like hindsight will always be 2020. Like I just talked about the Da Vinci effect, and I'll explain that a little bit because I think that would actually really help people, is that if you look at all of the different places and things that you've spent time in, like we all go down different rabbit holes in our life, whether it was, for me, it was lucid dreaming and astral projection, and then it was body work, and then it was teaching, and then it was breath work. And where do those all connect? That's where innovation happens. But while I'm in one of those explorations, I'm not like trying to figure out how that's all going to work, right? It just go down the rabbit hole. Yes. We have this black and white thinking that's like, if I do this thing right now, then I have to do that for the rest of my life. You got to get out of that. You got to get out of that, because rarely, nothing that you're doing right now is going to be for the rest of your life. I guarantee it. And so just go down the rabbit hole of whatever is sparking your interest, whatever is making you feel alive in this moment. Delve into that fully. Don't do it with a foot out the door, because you'll never get it if you leave your foot out the door. Go all in on it and then follow that rabbit hole to the end. And then when it's done, then go back into a transitional phase. Protect your space, explore again, go down a new rabbit hole. And if you do that enough times, like, you will integrate those different tunnels or rabbit holes into something that is uniquely your innovation.
That is so beautifully said. Like, there's so much that's pinging in my own mind where I'm like, whoa, like, it's just like, wow, it's so true. Everything that you just said has been so true for myself. And it gives everyone so much permission to go down that rabbit hole. Sometimes we're like, I'm dilly-dallying, I'm wasting time, I'm being lazy. It's like, is it lighting you up? Is it having you like meet a different version of you that comes alive? Like, when you're alive, are you considering that a waste of time? No, it's the exact opposite. So permission to play the instrument, permission to lean into the thing that feels expansive. Man, just thank you. I cannot wait to listen through this again myself, and like just the downloads that are coming through for me. I'm so excited to hear what the listeners are pulling from this. So please share with us, tag us on Instagram, what your biggest takeaways from this experience have been. Wow. If you could say, like, if there was a few things that really contributed or attributed to your success, I feel like you kind of went over that, but like, is there anything else that comes to mind when you're like, man, this really supported me in getting to the place I'm at today?
Yeah. I think that, I covered a lot of them in there.
You did.
The biggest thing for me, another massive thing, was getting out of, I need to do this by myself. Because so many of us were operating from a place of just our own energy, and we will burn ourselves out. Like, first off, we get hyper, a lot of us are hyper individualized, where we're like, my purpose, my job, my career. Like, it's about like my trauma, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, what about the collective? How do I align myself to a bigger mission, a bigger purpose? And a lot of the times when you do that, when you find your own, because we're all instruments, we all have our own personas. Like, persona, the etymology of that is per meaning by, sona meaning sonic, meaning sound, by sound. We're all our own instrument singing our own song. And when we can align our song to the symphony of life, because life is a symphony, when we can align ourselves to something greater than ourselves, a purpose, a mission, a song that's being sung for the collective that's much bigger than ourselves, you will have so much more energy, because it's not about you. It becomes about a bigger thing. And then at that point, you'll have a lot of other people that want to sing that same song. And then before you know it, you'll have a community, you'll have a collective, you'll have a movement.
Wow. I mean, yes. You just think about because I was a singer, I still am, I guess you could say. And you think about just the different, you have got the altos and the baritones and the, sopranos. You think they're all singing something completely different, but how beautiful it sounds together. That's a sound that's unlike anything else. And it requires other people to have it sound that way. So, way to paint a picture of truly what it feels like to lean into that collective energy, to find your sound first, and then to sing it with the collective, right? You got to find your sound first and then to sing and co-create. And so, like, just thank you so much for everything that you've poured into this space. I would love to know, where are you hanging out? People are going to want to connect with you after all of this beautiful wisdom you shared. So how can people connect with you?
Yeah, thank you, Christina. It's been an honor. I would say mostly Instagram. I mean, you can look us up, Somatic Breathwork, on almost every platform: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of the things. Somaticbreathwork.com. If you want to connect with me personally, my Instagram's at Jaggers JR. You can type in Stephen Jaggers. I am getting ready to launch kind of just a personal newsletter, just of my own thoughts and musings and wisdoms along my journey, because it's been such a blast and so much energy to kind of create Somatic to where it's gotten now. And I kind of want to just share a little bit more about my personal journey during this beautiful mission. So that newsletter will be coming out soon, and I'll probably announce that on Instagram and all over all the other spots too.
Okay, well, I'm definitely tuning into that. I can't wait to just have more of your magic in my inbox, in my life. So thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful that you dropped so much wisdom, so much magic into this space. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who listened got all the way through to this magic. Please, please, please share your favorite takeaways. It's so fun for us to hear what landed for you. So thank you for tuning in, and I cannot wait to see what resonated with you most. Until next time. Mwah.
Thank you.